tonight. Let's get into it. Welcome inside Bonfire Midweek.
DB, apparently we were muted the whole intro there.
Oh, was that right?
Yes, I couldn't hear you either. They couldn't hear you. But
Is that what the chat's saying? Oh boy.
yeah, so say it again because I want to hear what you had.
Okay. Well, I'll do it again. As long as everyone can hear me.
I think we can hear you now.
I hope so. All right.
I can hear you.
We'll do this again. Welcome. Welcome to the show, everybody. Appreciate your patience and hanging on. Well, this is what I had written for the lead on the show tonight. While there's so many questions surrounding Blue Bombers receiver Kenny Lawler, it remains a real puzzling development involving the superstar player and the CFL's flagship franchise. But while all that was happening, Blue Bombers Grey Cup champion Jonathan Kongbo stirred up a little controversy of his own and lit the internet ablaze. Now, following a blockbuster cross-division trade in the CFL this week, Jonathan Kongbo had some comments, and it was a former teammate with the BC Lions snapped back at him. We'll get into that tonight, but we all know why you're here, right? We all know why you're here. We're going to get you geared up with the latest and get you game ready. We got details and insight on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers ahead of that Week 1 rivalry tilt at IG Field against Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. It's at the stadium I affectionately refer to as the Madhouse on Matheson. It's Friday night. Chris Walby and I got the pregame show coming up tomorrow live at 2 o'clock. But right now it's time. Let's get into it. Lots to get to on Bonfire Midweek. How are you, Zach?
Buddy, the bonfire is already ablaze. I'm feeling that rush of heat. And
Someone's cooking.
We have so much to talk about. The kindling is lit. Let's do this. Welcome inside all the Firestarters. If it's your first time, well, get in on the chat. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. And if you've been here before, as I know you have, Denis, yes, we are two buttes. Welcome back inside.
Yeah, appreciate all you guys checking in and checking it out. If, like Zach said, if you haven't been here before, welcome. Appreciate you checking in. Okay, let's get right into it. Jonathan Kongbo, okay? Yeah. Traded from the BC Lions this week. And Zach, maybe try to catch everybody up a little bit. I just want to make sure I can pull up the tweets from Jonathan Kongbo. I want to make sure I got it here for everybody. I got visuals for you guys when you're ready.
So Kongbo was signed by the BC Lions not long ago, and that followed the release of one Sean Lemon, who many people in these parts have said should be a Blue Bomber to help with our rotation. Anyway, it appeared that they had dropped Lemon in favor of Kongbo for their D-line rotation. And then what happened was Kongbo was traded, which shocked everybody, because why would you pick up someone and get rid of Sean Lemon, who was the West Division nominee for Defensive Player of the Year last year? You don't do that for nothing. And Kongbo's a Canadian who's played at a big D1 school, former back-to-back Grey Cup champion with the Bombers. And they traded him to the Ticats for a conditional pick in 2024.
Which was a shocker.
Yeah.
Which was a shocker.
We were shocked. And then it came out that Neil McAvoy, the GM, said he wasn't a good fit in the room. That was reported by Farhan Lalji.
Yeah, got the tweet on screen here now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And
so effectively this trade, Zach, was Dane Evans for Jonathan Kongbo.
Right.
4th round escalates potentially to a 3rd. So not a fit in the room. Well, what did Jonathan Kongbo have to say about that? The former Winnipeg Blue Bomber. Quote, not a fit. Because I called out star players not showing up for practice, guys not wanting to work out. Culture matters. It's called pro football for a reason, Jonathan Kongbo said. Ho, buckle up.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. And by hilarious, I mean just wildly entertaining to see a player snap back publicly like that. But that wasn't the last we heard on the matter. Here's Jonathan Kongbo's teammate, star receiver Keon Hatcher, retweeting his former teammate saying, "But you quit? Very pro of you, my boy. And you sure them feelings wasn't hurt because you wasn't in rotation like that?" Oh boy.
Yeah.
It just got from bad to worse in in CFL Twitter. It was an absolute blank show with Jonathan Kongbo, the trade to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Not sure if he is expected to suit up and play for the Ticats on Friday here in Winnipeg, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Well, and here's we weren't inside the locker room, and there's three sides to every story, right? Here's what I do know is that Kongbo didn't f off, and what I mean by that was is he's a FIFO guy, Darrin. Fit in or f off previously in the Bombers locker room, and I assume that if he didn't f off, it's because he fit in, and if he fit in, it's because he's a culture guy. He works his butt off like all of the Bombers are expected to. He holds himself and others accountable. And
That
so,
said, it can rub people the wrong way sometimes when a new individual joins a locker room with guys that have
yeah.
been together for years and maybe makes his voice heard as an authority early, because
Yeah.
this happened in the first stretch of time, right? So I kind of see both sides of this. I can see Jonathan Kongbo calling out star players and veterans for not practicing or working out or the rest, like he learned in the NFL, like he learned here in Winnipeg with the Blue Bombers. I also understand how existing leadership in a locker room could be rubbed the wrong way about that. And, like Keon Hatcher said, maybe his feelings were a little bit hurt, which is why, maybe he did decide to FO instead of fit in.
Well, but a fit in means that you're gonna accept a low standard of play and practice and preparation. Then maybe he didn't want to fit in. I get what you're saying, that maybe his message wasn't wrong, but it was too soon. But maybe if the leadership was strong enough in the BC locker room, they could have looked past that and just looked at the message itself and said, "Yeah, he's right. We should look in the mirror. We're not doing we didn't win the Grey Cup last year. We didn't even win the Western Final, so maybe there's something we aren't doing right." But like I said, we weren't in the room, and I can see your point there, Darrin.
Well, and now Sean Lemon is a Calgary Stampeder. So the BC Lions, not quite left in the lurch. They did get a return on trading Jonathan Kongbo, but probably not what they wanted. They had a Canadian starting defensive lineman. Now they've got a conditional draft pick. But they did make out with at least what they spent to trade for their backup quarterback to Vernon Adams. That is, of course, Dane Evans. Lots to get to on the show. We're going to get into the Winnipeg Blue Bombers roster, the cuts, the ones that we were expecting, the ones that surprised us a little bit, and we'll get into expectations of this Blue Bombers team in 2023. We will then get into a bit of a CFL preview. We'll talk about the CFL's or TSN's top 50 players list. Pro Football Focus joining the media fray here in Canada, which is really, really something. We'll predict our division standings, give our preseason top three power rankings. Well, Zach and I will just each give our top three teams in the league. And then maybe a dark horse that will surprise. We'll probably, Zach, I think you and I should maybe throw in who we think is going to be in the basement this year. I
Oh,
think
I
people
like
want to know.
that too.
I think
By
people
the
want
way,
to know.
what is the etymology of the dark horse? I'd be curious to know that, Darrin. And I
That's a
know
good
that's
question.
that's
That's a
a
good
really
question.
pertinent right now, but
Yes.
why? What is the dark horse? Got to look that up.
So the biggest news I would say in the entire CFL this week, other than kickoff, right? And other than, those usual things at the beginning of a season, the biggest news in the CFL right now is a legitimate superstar in this league is ineligible to play for maybe a month to start the season after signing a free agent contract with your Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And that is, of course, Kenny Lawler. It was an immigration snafu. So, what it comes down to, he's placed on the suspended list. As we said all last week, not punitive. This is a move to keep Kenny Lawler a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. This isn't about disciplining the player. He pleaded guilty and was convicted of the charges in April. The Blue Bombers knew about it. Everybody knew. There's no secrets here. The only secret is that he is now, well, it's not even a secret, but he's no longer eligible to work in Canada as an American with a conviction. So Paul Friesen of the Winnipeg Sun pointed out in his piece this week, and great reporting by Paul, Lawler isn't even allowed to watch practice from the sidelines or set foot in the team facility. So maybe Kenny's going to kick it with us in the media, watching from the stands, be amongst the fans. Obviously, I say that in jest. He won't be doing that. But Mike O'Shea described it as, quote, disappointing. But the head coach also says the most important thing is Lawler is receiving very strong support from his teammates. Direct quote from Mike O'Shea: "It's pretty safe to say that we do a lot of things right, and some things are just out of our control. These things take a long time to handle." So Lawler, foreigner with a conviction, must apply for a temporary resident permit in addition to a work permit because of that conviction. So this is my take. How the Blue Bombers handled this situation, that's up to you out there to decide. But in a span of 2 months, just 2 months, it remains a fact that this player is unavailable, even though, and to even be in the facility, even though he took part in training camp and there was seemingly nothing, it was seemingly all steam ahead, full steam ahead for Kenny Lawler on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And now, they're going to be without him for a real stretch of time. It's something.
And I guess the question is, and I hate to ask this question of my beloved team, but did somebody in the organization drop the ball on this one? Like you said, he was full steam ahead, and then all of a sudden it almost sounds like they were a little bit caught unawares by this technical snafu
Mm-hmm.
that, if you're convicted of a crime and you're an American citizen, not a Canadian citizen, you can't work, and then you have to apply for a visa. Like, was someone caught with their pants down? I hope not. But even if they were, I could see how, if you don't know the legalities, you don't know the legalities, and I could see how the organization maybe missed the boat on this one. I don't begrudge them too much, but
Well,
it
if
still
my
doesn't look great.
if Mike O'Shea responds to the question of, what happened with, it's pretty safe to say that we do a lot of things right and some are just out of our control.
Right.
Uh, these things take a long time to handle. That's what the coach said when asked. I was in that scrum when Paul Friesen asked him, like, what happened? Like, how did this happen? 2 months since a
Right.
conviction, and now, he's not even allowed to be in the facility where they're paying him a lot of money to play pro football. Um, so it sure appears the Blue Bombers made a mistake here. Um,
But there, Darren, if I can interject, there, O'Shea is insinuating that it was outside of their control,
yeah, was that
right?
outside of football operations control? Was it outside of his lawyer's control, Kenny Lawler's, that is? Was it outside of, that they actually did everything they could and it's still taking more time? We don't know that for sure. The team, understandably, tight-lipped on the matter,
Yeah.
but they're still having to wait to have Kenny Lawler available. This is what paints the key indicator to me is that Kenny Lawler was on the field in the facility practicing as a member of this team until suddenly he wasn't.
Yeah. It was
So was
abrupt,
he
right?
like there's in no world do I see, and like I'm not a legal expert. I am not a lawyer. I don't even play one on YouTube. But it seems really strange that an individual was permitted to do something and then is no longer permitted to do that thing suddenly, right? As soon as he was convicted, you would presume that okay, you're not going to be able to work in Canada without these permits or temporary residence permit, the addition to the work permit, whatever. So that is a key indicator to me that somebody didn't follow through with due diligence or prudence, right?
Right,
Um,
because you think Kenny Lawler's lawyer would have alerted the team
yeah,
of some of the rules here, right?
yeah.
So
Well, it leaves us to, of course, Winnipeg's cuts, Winnipeg's
yes.
depth, Winnipeg's roster going into 2023. Surprise cuts from training camp, Zach Schnitzer.
Well, I sheepishly tell you, buddy, my Wallabies warrior for the second preseason game was one Mark Leggio.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? He gets cut.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he performed well in the preseason game. He punted well. He actually out punted Sheehan and Schmitz. His kickoff was good. He got a PAT. I thought under fire he did really well. And sure enough, he doesn't make the team. Now, so he was a bit of a surprise at first, but then it came out on Coach's Weekly show that they keep track of all the statistics of the kickers throughout training camp, and he was simply beaten out by Sheehan and Castillo in terms of
So,
percentage and in terms of ball placement and yardage on punts.
mm-hmm.
And the other thing you talked about was having depth at the global position. And that I think that carries a lot of water. They need to have that depth, and I think that may be another reason why they took Jamison Sheehan. So he is a surprise, but then when you really think about it and you get a bit of an explanation from coach, maybe not so much a surprise.
Yep. Yep. I mean, it was said a few days ago. Gosh, I wish I remember where exactly it was, but there was some scuttlebutt that Mark Leggio was on the trade block back in May,
Mm,
going into training camp. So was this a foregone conclusion? We don't know that, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't think Mark Leggio is going to be without a football home for a particularly long time. Edmonton is a possibility. They're probably going to see how things go this week, or maybe Mark Leggio might even already be working out for other teams. He is a Canadian that can do all three jobs. It is valuable, however you think of the young man. Um, Following his time here in Winnipeg. So we're looking at the Blue Bombers depth chart. Of course, this is the Bonfire Sports annual way too early depth chart. You don't got a screenshot right now. You don't need to do that. All you got to do, if you want a beautiful full resolution PDF of this that you can print off, that you can do what you like with, it is available by texting your name and email address to the Bonfire Hotline, 204-816-TIPS. That's 204-816-8477. You can see it right there at the bottom of the document. And well, uh, this is how I see things through Blue Bombers training camp and going into the regular season. Of course, we have individuals like Kyrie Wilson at weak side linebacker. He's on the 6-game injured list to start the season. Same with global stud Teadric Hansen on the 6 game. But hey, it's right there. It's right there what you need. There's your starting offensive line. Tui Ellie would normally be here. He's on the 1-game injured list to start the year. We will get into the Blue Bombers injuries and the rest, but some of the others we should talk about, Zach, is linebacker. Mentioned Kyrie
yeah,
Wilson, but the team decided to cut somebody who was said to be having a heck of a camp, and that is Barrington Wade. They're going to
yeah,
go with Malik Clements back again, new digits, 33. Les Maruo gets his double O. They're going to have Kyrie Wilson, obviously, hopefully, eventually. And then returning for a second season with the Bombers, Brian Cole. They've also got, obviously, Shane Gauthier, Jesse Briggs, Tanner Cadwallader as Canadians there. Big Hill practicing this week, not on the injury report. So he looks good to go after missing every single day of training camp. Holy cow.
With an infected toenail.
Infected toenail, which is just
Do
really
you buy
something.
that? Do you buy that?
Yeah. Yeah. Why wouldn't you believe him?
I don't know. I didn't think an infected toenail could keep you out of training camp that long.
So it was an ingrown toenail, he said. He told us at practice on Monday. And that, it was these new cleats he was trying to work out. He's back to the same cleats he's worn over the last 2 years. I imagine they're getting pretty long in the tooth and beat up and that sort of thing. How much support you get out of them, I don't know how that works. I don't think I wore my football cleats that long. I also didn't put in as much work as Adam Bighill does, or any pro player for that matter. But he's wearing the same cleats he has for the last 2 years because the new ones gave him some trouble. So he was involved, obviously, on the field every day as far as, not participating, but being involved with the team and helping. And then, he said he was doing a lot of workouts that just weren't hard on his feet. Football players and their feet, it's probably their most valuable asset and the one that gets beat up the most. You want to talk about the practice roster, Zach?
Sure.
The Blue Bombers did add a handful of guys to their practice roster. So new this season, defensive back and returner Matt Cole. I call him an offensive weapon, and that is Amare Jones, who changed from 16, he wore in that final preseason game, to number 81. Caleb Thomas at defensive tackle. He is actually expected to, Caleb Thomas will begin on the practice roster. There he is right at the bottom. Hang on, you know what? I'll get rid of that little, there we go. Get rid of the B.
Whoa.
And you can see
doing
it there.
it live on
Yes,
screen
sir.
there, buddy.
Yes, sir. We don't need
Makes
two of them on
skills.
there. And then Celestin Haba, he looks to make his CFL debut, joined Blue Bombers training camp late.
Yeah.
And there he is, looking like he will indeed dress and play on Friday, but that's still to be determined. The Bombers will issue their team-issued depth chart tomorrow, that being Thursday. Quick reminder, do join Chris Walby and myself at 2:00 Central Time on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. We're going to get Game Day Winnipeg fired up. Also,
dude, I gotta interrupt though. You
Yeah.
just told me they're gonna introduce their week 1 regular season actual real football depth chart tomorrow. Holy Dinah.
I know.
Like,
It's here.
we're here, buddy.
Also new to the team, they're here as well. Canadian defensive back Jake Kelly, Canadian receiver Jeremy Murphy, both of those young individuals, 2023 draft picks of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We have defensive back Abu Darami Soare, or ADS as some are calling him. Drew Richmond back at offensive tackle. He looks to be the heir apparent to Stanley Bryant / Jamarcus Hardrick. Chris Ivey, new to the team as well, somebody that they're hoping they can develop as an American to tackle. Jacob Stott was a member of the Ottawa Red Blacks last year. He's a developmental Canadian offensive lineman. And then, of course, as we mentioned, Jamison Sheehan. And the young man told me this week, he's like, you can call me Jam. So you don't even have to call him Jamison.
Oh, okay.
It's spelled Jameson. That's how us in the Northern Americas would refer to him. But being from down under, it's Jamison Sheehan, or Jam, which I think, Zach, your punter can get you out of a jam.
Sure can.
Call on Jamison Sheehan.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, like great nickname or great name for a punter.
I was just thinking about the surprises. I was a bit surprised to see Carl Schmitz on the practice roster. Like, would you
Yeah.
normally see a kicker or punter on a practice roster? I
Well, the
don't.
Bombers had they had Ali
Mortada?
they had Ali Mortada on there all
Yeah.
last year,
Yeah,
right?
like I get maybe you need insurance and they didn't want to let him walk because they thought he has a big upside, but he's, 10 years older than Jam. I'm calling him Jam right now. But yeah, I thought it was surprising that he was on there. Figuring
Yeah.
that, if something happened to Jamson Sheehan, it's pretty easy to go find a punter. But maybe I'm wrong.
Quickly answer Sandy's question. Great to see you, Sandy. Thanks for joining us. Is Janarian Grant good to go for Friday? We don't know. But he is practicing. So that is a positive indication that he will be good to go. I imagine Evan Holm, who has just been a stud on defensive snaps through camp and the preseason, he can return. Nick Dembski, I'm sure they'll find a way to handle that. Why did the Blue Bombers keep a global kicker on the practice roster who's 36 years old?
Yeah.
Well, they will be without Teodric Hansen for a good stretch of time, at least a month. He's on the 6 game injured list. He's not practicing. He's not permitted to practice as he's on the 6 game injured list, at least for a few more weeks. So with no Hansen, the Bombers globals are Les Maruo, Solomon Karamoko, defensive back, and the punter, Jam Sheehan. So if they need somebody to step in, if there's an injury to one of those globals, uh, or if there's an injury to Jam, right? They have a punter, good to go. I mean, Sergio Castillo can punt in a pinch, but I just don't think you pass off a global when you need two on your roster every week. I think that's
But
why
if yeah, but if Maruo goes down or Karamoko, they're not going to dress.
two
They're not
punters.
going to dress two punters.
No, but you'll always have one punter to have with either Karamoko or Maruo.
Right.
If you lose both of those guys, then you got a punter and you got Tomoya Machino on the offensive line,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where that came from. Yeah, but
Makes
I
sense.
think I cannot fail to mention this, Zach, and I think it's as good a time as any. Are you going to the game on Friday? Well, if you're not, you can go see our good friends at Shannon's Irish Pub. Game day specials every Blue Bombers game, every Jets game, before, during, and after. You can watch the game on their multiple screens in this hidden gem, Winnipeg's best kept secret. Underneath the streets of downtown Winnipeg, Shannon's Irish Pub, 175 Carlton Street, just we'll say, hitch pass down the street from True North Square. Go check them out. 21 beers on tap, tons of great beverages, a huge selection, and a curated food menu. They got your pub classics. Their wings are killer, but they've also got some really awesome culinary selections that you may not expect from a traditional pub. It is a traditional pub. It's got great energy and a great atmosphere underneath the streets. I mean that literally. Go check them out. Shannon's Irish Pub, 175 Carlton. ShannonsIrishPub.ca. You can find them on Instagram as well.
Nice. One of our fire starters saying Peter D is a global. Uh Schmitz doesn't take up a roster spot on the practice roster. I'd never heard that before.
I'll have to look into that. The Blue
That's
Bombers do
interesting.
have, what do they got? They got 13 on their practice roster, including Karamoko and Schmitz. So what is it? Two,
Hmm.
4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They got 13 on their practice roster as it stands right now. And I mean, maybe that's part of it. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely
That's
sure.
interesting. I always thought practice roster limit for numbers was 10 at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, they got, what are we looking at right now? There's there's your legend, as they call it on a map. Your global is in dark gray, Karamoko, Schmitz, and Machino. Their starters will be Sheehan at punter and or not starters, game day dressers. You need two of them, Maruo and Sheehan. So that's probably why they got
Well, there you
10
go.
plus their three globals. So there you
So
go.
there you
Thanks
go.
to
You're Peter. Well said.
appreciate you, Peter.
He's right.
Yeah.
Look, our fire starters are so hot.
Well, hey, that's why they're here to keep us all on the ball. Uh, that's awesome. Do you want to get into Zach? Get into our CFL preview and kind of look across the CFL,
Yeah,
what we
let's do it.
expect from some of these teams. We briefly want to touch on Pro Football Focus. I don't know if we're gonna have time to get into it all today, Zach, but uh, Pro Football Focus. Go to the CFL website right now if you're unfamiliar. Pro Football Focus is like deep analytics and stats and grades of professional football players. They also do it in the NCAA. They've done it in the NFL for a heck of a long time. They're now covering the CFL. So I get the sense, and one of our buddies in our fantasy draft, Zach, our personal in-person live drafted fantasy CFL fantasy draft, mentioned in our chat room that this is going to expose some players, and
Yeah.
I think that's the truth. But it'll be very interesting how that shakes out. The top 50 players came out, a whole bunch of Bombers on there. Zach, what did you think of the list?
I liked it. And when you get six of your hometown team in the top 10, that's always going to make you smile. But yeah, nice to see Colaris number one. That makes sense. Back to back MOP. And honestly, like, would anybody be surprised if he wins it again this year? The only reason I think he wouldn't, if he plays within himself, is maybe Zach Colaris fatigue. But
Hmm.
I think I think it made sense to have him first. Eugene Lewis, I thought made sense to have him number two. The guy can catch anything. He's an absolute stud at receiver. I like the list. I don't put too much stock in it, especially some of the low, when you get to the 30s and 40s. But I liked it. How about you?
Yeah, overall, I think it is pretty good. Dave Naylor mentioned to me when I was talking to him about my ballot and that sort of thing, mentioned to me that he got more ballots in this year from voters across the country than he ever has, which is
Okay.
great. I like that there were a lot of defensive backs high up in the list. For example, last season in 2022, my ballot had one quarterback on it. One. This year, my ballot had two, and I'll let you guys guess who the other was. And I had a whole bunch of defensive backs. I think it's important for the DBs in this league to get a little bit more respect and a little bit more shine. Often we look at receivers and their numbers. They got these touchdowns. Okay, that catches my attention. They got 1,000 whatever yards. 1,000, that's a big number. That catches my attention. These DBs have like, passes defended, tackles. Well, if you're a good DB, you don't have a bunch of tackles. You might not even have a whole bunch of interceptions because they're often or happenstance, or you're not getting thrown at a lot. Like Dietrich Nichols, Cameron Kelly, Derek Moncrief, these guys are high up in defensive plays made, especially those dime backers that I mentioned in Moncrief and Kelly. Chris Edwards is another one. Um, but Dietrich Nichols doesn't get thrown at a lot.
Yeah.
So his tackle numbers are low, of course. His interception numbers are low. I mean, by happenstance, when I say that, I mean, like the chance is there when the ball is thrown your way. If it's not being thrown your way because you're the human tarpaulin, those numbers aren't going to stand out. So I've always felt it's important to put the defensive backs up in the list. Interior defensive linemen that don't get big numbers. Like, remember last year, everyone was like, Casey Sales, what's he really doing? The Bombers need Stove Richardson back. And Stove Richardson, like, look, Steven Richardson was averaging a sack a game with Winnipeg, right? So the numbers showed. Casey Sales, you could argue, had a better season in 2022 than Steven Richardson had with Winnipeg in 2021. And I know that's a bold statement, but I believe it to be true. And the what was it? The Montreal. Gosh, where did he sign? Montreal,
Hamilton.
Hamilton. Yeah. So Casey Sales coming to Winnipeg next week potentially.
But maybe that's where the Pro Football Focus stuff really
Yes.
really helps illustrate your
Yes.
point right there, because they're going to look at things like pressures, and they're going to look at it's contextual stats, right? They're going to look
Yes.
at the down and distance, the competition they're playing against, all sorts of those contextual factors that can really help paint in the lines uh,
100%.
of what you're seeing. You said it's 4D chess, right? Well,
Yeah.
you need a 4D engineer or a 4D chess player to really help you understand what's going on, because it's so complicated.
Well, speaking of 4D chess, okay, and things being ridiculously complicated,
Yeah.
today news emerged about the, I don't know, you want to call them details on the naturalized Canadian rule. Here is a tweet from Dave Naylor, and I hope you guys can see that on the screen. But I will, like, do your, Zach, it's insane how complicated this has become. I was calling them the 49ers because they were allowed to play 49% of the snaps, an American, in place of a Canadian. But
Yeah.
now they've realized, well, how do we know how many snaps a player will play percentage wise when we don't know how long, how many snaps there are? How do you calculate a percentage when the
Yeah.
game is currently underway, right? So now it's
Well,
23 snaps per game. And like, look, if you're interested in the details of all this, go check out Dave Naylor's Twitter account. There's lots written on this by reporters across the country. It is really something else as far as the complete cluster, you know what, this has become, because these naturalized Canadians, 3 years experience with their team or 5 years of prior experience in the CFL, they can replace a Canadian starter for 23 snaps. And prior to a game, every CFL team, like when the Blue Bombers depth chart comes out tomorrow on Thursday, it will say, this is our designated naturalized Canadian on defense. This is our designated naturalized Canadian on offense. So, for example, it could be Adam Big Hill on defense, but then he wouldn't be the starter. He would
right.
not be a starter. Like, that's crazy, right? Adam Big Hill's not a starter. Well, like, Calgary came out with their roster today for their game on Thursday in BC, a great playoff rematch to kick off the 2023 CFL schedule. And Kadeem Carey is not the starter on offense. It's going to be Peyton Logan. And then Kadeem Carey not starting means he just cannot be on the field for the first snap. He can step on the field for the second snap and be out there for every snap since. And if, say, someone like a Luther Hakunavanu goes down to injury, or another Canadian on offense, they can use their best running back, Kadeem Carey, I would say the league's best running back, as a Canadian, a naturalized Canadian, uh, in their place,
Mm-hmm.
to keep the ratio the same. So it is incredibly convoluted,
Yeah.
confusing, and the league hasn't done itself any favors in making this more understandable and digestible. But as Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press reported today, the collective bargaining agreement where this new rule came in still has not been finalized. It will be finalized and signed hopefully soon.
Well, and hopefully when it's finalized and signed, some of these kinks are worked out, right?
Yes,
Because it at
hopefully
this
so.
point is it's kind of a gimmick. It's kind of a joke,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Where teams,
Waiters always chimes in with the goods. I understand quantum physics better than these rules. Yeah, I mean, quantum computing, quantum physics. I've been trying to figure it out. I'm also trying to figure out this new rule. We'll have to see how
I
it
don't even
shakes
understand
out.
physics, much less quantum physics. That's why I keep dropping things all the time. I'm the
Yeah,
klutz in my family.
yeah. Winnipeg Gordo, who's always got a sharp eye for Canadian football. Hopefully, Kadeem Carey doesn't have a bonus clause in his contract for
Right.
starts. Yeah, no kidding. Great profile pick there, Gordo. You and Tom Green. Love that. Uh, which by the way, everybody chiming in the live chat, everybody watching live on YouTube, Facebook, great to see you here tonight. Go hit the thumbs up right now. Go do it. Okay, Zach, let's get into how we see the CFL East and West shaking out in 2023. Do you got a team you think is going to be just like they're going to cruise to it in a division?
I do, and yeah, sure. Accuse me of wearing my blue and gold glasses, but we won the West Division last year going away. I think we wrapped it up in what, September. It was ridiculous, and then I got to ask myself going into this year: are any of our Western Division friends better than last year? I would even say they're actually worse. I would say BC has taken a step back with Vernon Adams Jr. He's not Nathan Rourke. I don't care what weapons you have around. He's never been a consistent quarterback, and BC in the last few years has never been able to run the ball, and they have some unknown Mizell. I don't know who this guy is. So BC, I don't see challenging Winnipeg for a top spot. Calgary is always dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one thing to be the backup. It's another thing to be anointed the starter. And Jake Mayer, you saw what happened when Dane Evans had the weight of the team on his back in Hamilton. He crumbled. So, and then you saw the performance of Jake Mayer in the Western semifinal last year. He was benched
Yeah.
for Bo Levi Mitchell. So I don't know what Calgary has. They lost a lot of starters that they usually wouldn't lose. So I don't know what to expect. Saskatchewan, everyone's calling a tire fire. Edmonton, they don't have a quarterback, I think, who can hit the broadside of a barn. I mean, I'm being a little bit harsh there, but I don't think
Sure.
Taylor Cornelius is proven as a pocket passer, and you can't just run your way out of trouble. So I see the Bombers as cruising, to answer your question.
Yeah, I agree. I think Winnipeg will have. Oh, hey, how about that? You just popped up picture in picture there. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Learning this new software here, guys. Appreciate your patience today. I think Winnipeg will have their way in the CFL West. I think Calgary will push them. I think BC is a middle of the pack team unless Vernon Adams Jr. figures out consistency. He had a very strong preseason, but it's the preseason. So I'm not holding my breath until I see it in regular season meaningful games against opponents' top players. Um, Edmonton will be a better team this year. I think they could be the third place team in the West.
Okay.
Saskatchewan is in a lot of trouble. I don't have confidence in really much other than having some very good players and very big holes on their roster. They haven't figured out the offensive line. Like we're on the eve of the regular season, and reports coming out of Saskatchewan today were saying things still shaking out with the offensive line. So that's been their biggest Achilles heel. They've got two very talented tailbacks in Jamal Morrow and Frankie Hickson. They were both incredible last year, but the offense will look different. They have got a big arm quarterback in Trevor Harris who has good games and bad games. And we'll see how Saskatchewan fares, but I don't think they'll do particularly well in 2023, the final year of the contracts of head coach Craig Dickinson and general manager Jeremy O'Day. By the way, Zach, how do you see things in the East?
The East is so hard to predict, with Masoli being out the first couple of games, because I had Ottawa pretty much up there, maybe in second or third place. You're out for a couple of games. Nick Arbuckle is so inconsistent. I don't That's not great for Ottawa. So I think I was on the I was it's well known in these parts, and on the show last year you and I had a spat about Bo Levi Mitchell when Jake Mayer took the starting job, and I said Bo was done, and you said you scoffed at me, and maybe rightfully so. It was a fun jousting match, but I I don't know what Bo will be. in Hamilton. He's never looked the same to me since 2018. So I have a hard time seeing Hamilton as being the elite team in the East. Toronto, you've got a rookie quarterback in Chad Kelly. Yes, he has a lot of maybe upside, and you saw that great. If you haven't seen that documentary about him and his uncle, Mr.
Uncle
Jim
Jim.
Kelly,
Yeah.
check it out. I think it's on Twitter somewhere. I think
It's
you
on
showed it to me.
TSN's YouTube page.
TSN's YouTube
Yeah, I'm
page.
sure you
Check it
could
out.
find it on their
Like a
website as well.
9-minute video. It's very good.
Yeah.
And then Montreal. I mean, I have a hard time not seeing Montreal in the basement
Hmm.
with Cody Fajardo and Jason Moss. They weren't a good marriage in Saskatchewan. Why would they be a good marriage here? And they don't even have as many good players as they did in Saskatchewan. So I I see, as much as I hate to say it, because I'm, basically contradicting myself. I see Hamilton as the team to beat in the East. Although I think it'll be a cluster. I don't think one team's going to walk away like Winnipeg will walk away with the West.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I think Montreal is going to be picking up the slack at the bottom of the league this year. Um, I think the Hamilton Tiger Cats are the class of the East. Bo Levi Mitchell, I've said it to so many people over the last month or two, as you know, conversation around the league has picked up again. Don't sleep on Bo. Don't sleep on Bo Levi Mitchell. Sometimes a talented player with a very good skill set and a winning pedigree gets a change of scenery and they light it up, right? Uh, Bo told TSN's Kate Burness, and I think this was this was pretty widely known after Bo signed and spoke to the media in Hamilton, is that he wanted to go to a winner. The Hamilton Tiger Cats, and we're gonna, that's what we're gonna kind of throw in as a bonus at the end here. We'll talk a little bit more about Bo Levi and the Tie Cats, but the Tie Cats are a team that will look a little bit different on the back end, but man, they look good. And he's got a nice arsenal of weaponry on offense, and they're just a rock solid top to bottom football team. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are last year, in my opinion, was an anomaly as Dane Evans just threw games away, gave the ball away way too many times late. How many times did the Blue Bombers win the game in the final minute or two? And yeah, they got a 13-win season. That's great. But because they were able to pull out those wins, the Hamilton Tiger Cats were the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
They blew games late, and obviously a reason why their season didn't go the way a lot of people thought. Some people are picking the Toronto Argonauts to be a basement dweller this season.
I don't think so.
I think they're kind of a middle of the road team. Obviously, if Chad Kelly is able to do what he did in the Grey Cup, then things are going to be okay for the Toronto Argonauts. They've got a lot of talented players. They added Jordan Williams on defense to Enoch Mwamba. They've had some free agency changes and the like, but Deveris Daniels, I don't think is at the end of the line yet. Andrew Harris, AJ Ouellette. It'll be interesting if there's an American that can maybe step up and help those two with the workload. So I think Toronto and Ottawa are the teams that are going to be jockeying for that home playoff date in the East. Ottawa will be a good football team. Mark my words. No Jeremiah Masoli for the first two games of the season. They have a bye in week 3. They're here in Winnipeg, I think, in week 6 or week 7. So Masoli expected to be back for that for sure. But then I've got Montreal. That's kind of how I see things shaken out in the CFL East. That leads us, Zach, to something new we're going to do on Bonfire Midweek this year, and I'm really excited about this. We are going to go head to head.
Yeah, baby.
All season long. Here,
Tete-a-tete.
Tete-a-tete, and we're going to do it with some things on the line. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go to sia.com/bonfire. Right there, you'll get a very tidy bonus. Okay. These are their betting lines currently available right now. Ticats are 5-point dogs on Friday in Winnipeg, Thursday in the season opener. The Lions, 3-point dogs in Calgary. Ottawa is a 2-point underdog as Nick Arbuckle will get the start at quarterback in place of the injured Jeremiah Masoli. But 3-point dogs in Montreal, and then Saskatchewan, 2.5-point dogs in Edmonton as the Elks look for their first win at home in forever. So, Zach, this is how we're going to lay it out this year for everybody out there. Zach and I, every week, we are Ottawa plus 2.5. And I am going to put 1 unit on Ottawa plus 2.5. Okay. That's my first pick for week 1. In week 2, or pardon me, my second pick, I'm going to take Edmonton to cover their 2.5-point favorite. Oop, put it a little higher here. There we go. I'm going to take Edmonton to cover 2.5. So I think they'll win by 3 or more. I'm going to put 3 units on this game. I'm very confident Edmonton will get a win at home. So Ottawa to Ottawa plus 2.5. I'm betting 1 unit. Edmonton minus 2.5. I'm betting 3 units. Zach, what do you got for your 2 games this week?
Yes, units. I have Calgary at -3, and
Smart
I
pick.
will put how many units should I put on that? I'll just put the 1 unit on that
Okay.
for Calgary. I think they cover against the Lions. I just don't trust Vernon Adams. And then Winnipeg, I'm going to take the Bombers to cover 5, although Hamilton I think will be good. There's just too many pieces there, too many new pieces, and I think it takes them a little bit of time to gel. And I think you see the Bombers come together. And I'm going to give it 2 units, not quite
Okay.
3, but 2.
Okay. So to recap for everybody, this year, Zach and I will each pick 2 games in the CFL, and we will bet either 1, 2, or 3 units on those games. So, Zach, you have Calgary to cover 3 at home to BC. You put 1 unit on that. And Winnipeg to win by 5, or pardon me, yeah, to Winnipeg to cover 5. You're going to put 2 units on that. So you got 3 units on the line. That could be 3 pennies, 3 dimes, $3, $300, $300,000. However you want, you out there, however you want to associate those units. I am taking Ottawa plus 2.5. I put 1 unit on that. I put 3 units because I'm incredibly confident Edmonton will cover their 2.5-point favorite spread in the last game of week 1. That game is Sunday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, I believe. It's going to be good. So at the end of the year, we'll see how many games Zach and I each got right, and then how many units. So towards the end of the year, when Zach, you're inevitably trailing me, you can put 3 units on both your games, and I'll maybe have a little mercy, let you catch up, maybe by just putting 1 unit on a game or 2, or maybe 2 if I'm
Oh, that'd be
confident. But
kind.
it'll keep it fun. And for everybody out there watching, go to sia.com/bonfire. That's sia.com/bonfire ShannonsIrishPub.com/bonfire. Go to Sports Interaction, and with that exclusive link, sign up, deposit, and you will get a bonus, whether you deposit $10 or $1,000 or anything in between. When your bet's clear, you'll get a bonus, a 100% bonus of whatever you deposit and bet. So yeah, put a little sprinkle. There's futures bets up there. You can bet on passing yardage leader, receiving yards leader, rushing yards leaders, MOP, Grey Cup winners, who's going to win the East, who's going to win the West. All of those things. It is going to be so much fun this season, and we encourage you to bet responsibly, play safe, but have fun and join us for the ride. It's going to be a blast.
And make sure you check out the over under and win total for Ottawa and Edmonton. I think
Yes,
there's
the
some
win
value.
totals. Yes.
I put some shekels down there, Darrin.
Yeah, I might have
I'm
hammered
pretty
some units
confident.
on those.
Hammered some units.
I did. I hammered some units.
We must be getting towards the end of the show.
Quite possibly. Quite
Hammered.
possibly.
Anyway, thanks to CJ did it, because he gave us this idea in part, although we had been talking about it as well. This is why Bonfire Sports is so great, folks. You can get inside our heads. You can tell us what to do, and if we like the idea, we'll do it. And if we don't like it, we'll just politely say, we're going in a different direction. But CJ, you're a jam buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. CJ's been a long-time viewer and listener and supporter. Appreciate you, CJ. So again, that link, SIA.com/bonfire. You can find it in the description of this YouTube video. I think it'll be on Facebook too and all that. But hey, if you're ever unsure about something, or if you just have a question, like on a random Tuesday morning, text the Bonfire hotline. 204-816-8477. 816-TIPS. It's just like texting your mama. Standard message rates apply. And I'll answer you. Like, I'll text you back. You could even
always
call.
does,
I probably
folks.
won't answer, but you could.
You can say a lot of things about Darrin, but one thing he does do is he texts you back.
It's how I landed my girlfriend, and like way out of my league. But I texted her back like immediately. She appreciated that so much. She thought she'd give me a chance.
See, it worked for you, buddy.
It worked. It worked. It was good. Okay, so Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Tiger Cats coming to Winnipeg on Friday night. Chris Walby will join me for Game Day Winnipeg Thursday afternoon, live at 2:00. Of course, as always, will be available on podcast soon after, as will this show. If you missed anything, scroll back on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, or check the podcast. Be sure to subscribe there on your favorite podcast app. We are there. Just search Bonfire Sports Winnipeg. You will find it. The Ticats, Zach, are interesting because I think they're a team that is going to be a lot better than they were last season. And there, I finally found it. Here it is. This is the Hamilton Tiger Cats depth chart from their first preseason game, where a lot of their starters played. So this is not how they will line up on Friday at all. You can add Dylan Wynn to the interior of the defensive line next to our good Canadian Fred Ted Laurent. They have Kwaku Boateng on the defensive end, Malik Carney on the other side back again, as well as Jagirid Davis. How about this for a linebacking core? Simone Lawrence and Jameer Thurman. They are rock solid in the middle. Chris Edwards comes over via free agency from the Toronto Argonauts to play the dime back spot. Don't let that LB confuse you. He is not a linebacker. No player there on a depth chart in the CFL is a linebacker. That's the dime backer, or the dime. Sometimes they used to call it a strong side linebacker. It's not a linebacker. It's a dime. It's a defensive back. Chris Edwards is there, one of the best in the league. And then a defensive backfield that will look much different than it was last year Zach. Gone are Carriel Brooks and Jamal Roll, but Richard Leonard, the veteran, still there, as well as Woods and Elliott at corner and halfback, respectively. Katsantonis, the Canadian, playing free safety. On
Yeah.
offense, sorry, go ahead. Pardon
Well,
me.
I don't recognize many of their, aside from Richard Leonard, I don't recognize any of these DBs that they have. So I'm curious to see how they fare
Yeah.
against an elite Bomber receiving core and quarterback.
So Lawrence Woods emerged last year as a rookie.
He was the
And
returner, right?
yeah, and as a defensive back. Did he do
Yeah,
some returning? Yeah. Yeah.
I thought he did. Yeah.
And then Javian Elliott is one of their veterans returning, entering his third year in the CFL, first with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Where he played last year is escaping me at the moment. The offensive line in Hamilton, they boast one of the strongest. Joel Figueroa anchoring things at left tackle. Brandon Revenberg, one of the top players in the CFL, regardless of position. David Beard comes over from the Edmonton Elks. Previous to that, the BC Lions. Hunter Woodmansey. Then who's going to be their right tackle? Oh, of course, Kyle Saxelid. So they have got options here as well. Cut was former Blue Bomber Ben Kazwara, as well as former Blue Bomber defensive end Cedric Wilcots, who did not dress in this game. Just to reiterate, this was back their first preseason game, May 27th. But that just gives you a picture of the Hamilton Tiger Cats and how they're lining up this year. James Butler comes via free agency from the BC Lions, one of the most well-rounded offensive players in the CFL. Be interesting to see how the Ticats, who traditionally do not run the ball much, will that change with James Butler there. Tim White, I think, will lead the league in receiving this year with Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback. They've got Duke Williams wearing number 1, not 5 anymore, but signing via free
And
agency.
he may be injured for game one, though.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and there you go. There's Woods as your kick returner. So you were right, Zach. Uh,
He
that
was really good at the beginning of the season, and then I think he got hurt.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richie Sindani, a veteran Canadian pass catcher. And who am I forgetting here? They cut Poppy White. But those are their two big studs is Tim White and Duke Williams. Smith, what is his name? Forgive me. Keandre Smith, second season in the CFL. Him and well, we'll see who lines up. Again, this was the preseason roster, preseason depth chart. So we'll see who lines up at their boundary wideout spot or the Z, or pardon me, the X receiver spot, as Canadian Football League offenses refer to it. So Friday night's going to be a lot of fun. Apparently, ticket sales are reaching 29,000, maybe even 30 on a beautiful Friday night at the Madhouse. It's going to be a madhouse. It's going to be awesome.
It's gonna be a
I've
beauty.
even heard tickets for the Banjo Bowl are nearly, well, I won't say nearly, but they're going really quick. So if you want to be at the Banjo Bowl for like the biggest regular season game of the year, I would call the Bombers ASAP and get on that. And season tickets reportedly in the 17,000 range. So lots of walk up, lots of people who buy the mini packs, all of those things not included. There's a reason why kind of 23, 24,000 is like baseline attendance at IG Field over the last couple years. But you'll be there.
Oh, I'll be there, buddy. 2 more sleeps. I can't wait. And apparently there's this gargantuan hot dog you can buy now at the stadium. Did you hear about this?
Yeah. The Gargantuan Glizzy.
Yeah. Well, maybe you guys in the press box should take it down together.
Oh man, maybe, maybe. That's not, you know what? I like that. That's a pretty good idea. I think I'm gonna get it.
I think
I
you
might have to
should.
like get Teddy Wyman and Jeff Hamilton and maybe
Yeah.
John Hodge to, help me out. Judy
Get them
Owen, Canadian
get them
Press, my
yeah,
my dear friend Judy Owen. Sporty Judy Owen. Sporty Judy Owen on Twitter. Go check her out. Fantastic writer,
Yeah.
veteran reporter, lovely person. Maybe we'll have to all kind of, chip in, or
Phone
maybe I'll
me up.
buy them. I'll buy them a hot dog
I
because
think
it's
it's
a cool thing.
$45 though. Like
Oh,
it's an
okay.
expensive.
We'll get them to chip in.
That's what I thought.
Unless I hit on my 3 units this week, and then I might be able to
Yeah, well,
afford a bite of that hot dog.
if you hit on your 3 units, things anyway, never mind. Never
See,
mind.
you're going to make jokes on the units all year.
I
Just
am
so everybody out there knows, Zach hated the idea of us betting units, right?
yeah.
Uh,
I,
but
I
that's
was
how we're
like,
doing
what's
it.
a unit? Like what is a unit?
You're a unit. You're an absolute
I'm a
unit.
big unit. Just like Randy Johnson. Wasn't that his name, the
Whoa! Oh,
big
the big
unit?
unit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the big unit.
You said Johnson, and I was like, pardon? Yeah,
Was that
never.
why he was unit?
That was
Oh,
you. That was all
nice.
you. I can't believe I did that. I have this sound effect sitting here. It came with the software, so I'm going to use it when I want to. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Listen, just before we go, just on the Hamilton game, and you and Walby will get onto this tomorrow, but with they have such a strong linebacking core, it's going to be maybe tough to run on the Ticats, which is kind of our bread and butter. So we might be throwing the ball more than usual, testing out some of those inexperienced DBs back there.
was that right?
I don't know. I'm just thinking, just based on that depth chart.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that depth chart because that's going to help us see a lot of pictures. But here's the whole thing. And Gregory Liverpool chiming in. I have called. Oh yes, he's left voicemails on the Bonfire Hotline.
I'm
Uh,
sure he has.
Gregory, you know I talk to you whenever you call, but I missed you those times, so appreciate you. And I do want to address Kyle. The link didn't work to the depth chart. Text the hotline again. I will get you the depth chart. I promise. This is the whole thing. If you if you're on SIA.com/bonfire and you're putting some sprinkles on some games and you want to get involved, it's super easy, super fun. You just send an interact direct or whatever, and you can put a couple bucks on these games, just to have some fun purely. CFL week 1, there will be upsets. So you can find value in CFL week 1. Don't expect all the favorites to win. I took one favorite. I took Edmonton because I just don't think like there's a reason Saskatchewan is a dog. But I think Edmonton is there. You took two favorites in Calgary and Winnipeg. So maybe you'll prove me wrong, Zach.
I hope so. I got to
Yeah.
get my units up. I want to get out ahead of you early with my units.
Oh, brother.
You know
You're
what? The
making.
units unite us.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you one of these.
Very lovely.
Okay? Again, because it's there. It's the only reason I'm pushing those buttons, because it's right there staring me in the face. But more of those really goofy but fun sound effects will be part of Game Day After Dark, our post-game show here every single game night in Winnipeg or on the road here on Bonfire Sports. Game Day After Dark. Zach will join me. Other guests throughout the season will join me. The Happy Honker Award, the Bonfire Burning Point, Walby's Warrior, Westwood's Wide to the
Yeah.
Right. We'll hand out our game balls and just digest what we saw, what we witnessed, everything around the Winnipeg Blue Bombers across the CFL. And then, as we always do, we'll be back here Wednesday nights throughout the season at 7:30 on Bonfire Midweek.
Sounds good, Darrin. I mean, 2 more sleeps, and I don't know that I'll sleep a peep on Thursday night, but I'm very excited, and my throat is going to be raw when we reconvene on Bonfire after dark, buddy, as it always is. I'll have to have my tea going because I'm going to scream, and I'll probably be icing my knee too, because I might
Yeah.
do a Schnitzer stair climbs. We'll see
Well,
what happens.
don't fall. That's the most
I'm
important
not
thing.
going to fall. I'm going
You're
to wear
not
my
gonna.
knee
I know
brace.
you're not gonna be intoxicated. You're not gonna fall. I know that because you got the post game. You're gonna be sharp.
I'm going to be very sharp.
You're always on the ball.
Yeah.
You're like a starting center on an offensive line. You're
Yes.
on the ball, Zach.
I'm on the ball and I snap it. I don't snap it over to the quarterback's head
No,
like
no.
Liam Dobson did a
You
couple
are
times.
talented at the shotgun. It's good. Bailey, the official intern of Winnipeg sports podcasts and video casts, rightfully named Bailey, reminding me something I forgot to do. We're going to do this again tomorrow on the pregame show, so be sure to join us live at 2:00. We'll have a different password. The password today, I'll let you pick, Zach, but this is what you're going to do. You're going to text the hotline your name and email address with the password, and you'll win a free pass, a foursome, to Scotswood Links in beautiful Elm Creek, Manitoba. It's like a 30-minute drive just southwest of the city. It's worth it. It's a prairie meadow golf course. Beautiful course, immaculate shape. They've been putting in the work through the years. The Sisson family has run it for a whole number of years. They do a great job. You're going to love the course. Brand new, expansive clubhouse for events, food, great beverages, and the rest there. The back nine is going to knock your socks off. I'm telling you guys right now. So I got a free foursome pass with carts to Scotswood Links in Elm Creek, Manitoba. So, Zach, what are they going to do?
They gotta text the hotline with the password.
Yeah.
And since this is the beginning of the season, I'm gonna say the password is kindling.
Oh gosh,
It's how you
we
it's how
we
you
won't
start a
judge you on how
fire.
you spell it.
It's how you start a fire. It's how you start the fire. And this season to get this initial prize, kindling, KINDLING.
Yeah, or however you spell it. Well, I'll show mercy, but do that
Oh,
right now.
really? No, you got to spell it right. Come on. Where are our
Kindlin.
standards?
Kindlin. So thanks, Bailey, for reminding me. You're doing a great job as an intern and already earning your entirely too low paycheck by
She's earning her
reminding
Edith.
me about that. So Scotswood Links, free foursome passes. Text the hotline right now with your name and your email address, and then I'll be able to send you that foursome pass to Scotswood
Beauty.
Links. You can check them out, scotswoodlinks.ca. Great course. Look at that. Phone's blowing up already, buddy.
All
People want the
right.
passes. CJ Diddick is there. Encourage you all. So, what is the Bonfire Hotline? You'll remember it. 816 TIPS 204 816 8477. And do that now. And we'll give away another foursome pass with carts to Scotswood Links on the show tomorrow.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good,
Well,
buddy. Well, this was fun. Make sure you all check out this guy and the big man tomorrow for game day preview the day before the game every week. Oh my God, I can't wait to watch.
me too. And well, if I wasn't going to the Madhouse, I would be going to Shannon's Irish Pub, 175 Carlton Street, for their game day specials. Every Jets and Bombers game, home and away. Go check them out. They will take care of you if you're thirsty or hungry or just want to have a good time. Awesome place to go. So until then, we will see you guys on the pregame show tomorrow afternoon. That's Thursday. And then Zach, you'll join me again on Friday for the postgame.
Sayonara, folks.
Cheers, everybody.